Welcome to another episode of the Forever and Ever podcast. I'm your host, Omar Hargrove, and today we are going to be talking about something that every couple has dealt with, those moments when emotions start running high and communication starts breaking down. So we're going to talk about marriage and how it can bring out the deepest love and also the most intense feelings. And when expectations go unmet or maybe sensitive topics are brought up, it's natural for this frustration or hurt to show up too. That's why we're going to be talking about emotional awareness. And when we recognize what we're feeling and stay connected to each other in those moments, we stop turning on each other and start turning toward each other. So today, as we talk about how to stay emotionally grounded, we're going to talk about how to de-escalate tension before it becomes a big blow up, and how to communicate in ways that keep your marriage safe even when things are getting heated. So let's start with part one. This is where the times when emotions override intentions. And have you ever been in the middle of a conversation with your spouse and suddenly something small hits a nerve? And now the entire tone shifts. You literally feel your emotions engage. Maybe you didn't even mean to raise your voice in that moment, but it's almost like you feel your grip slipping away and it came out sharp. Maybe that they responded a way that felt cold or dismissive, and now you're hurt. And this is what happens when emotions override our intentions. We start losing grip of the wheel, and you're not trying to hurt each other, but emotions like frustration, insecurity, even disappointment, these can come out so fast, and before you know it, you're no longer communicating, you're reacting. And oftentimes, you're not even really reacting to just the current issue. You're actually reacting to the past. You're reacting to something in your past pain, an unmet need, or maybe even a deep fear that you haven't even voiced yet. That's why emotional awareness is so important. And it's the ability to pause and say, what am I really feeling right now? And where is this coming from? Because if you don't know what's going on inside of you, you'll end up saying or doing things that create disconnection, even when that's the last thing that you want. You know, as a simple example for me, I love sharing examples, right? Even though my marriage is perfect, there's been times where, emotions have run high. And I think back years ago, and I know I've shared this story quite a bit, but I feel like it was one of the most core self-learning experiences for me. And it was a simple time where me and Lauren and some of the kids got back from a day out at the park, and we just taken like a dog out there. It was a big day. We were all tired and exasperated. As we're getting out of the car, Lauren turns to me and says, "I'm about to make a sick sandwich." And I looked at her and I said, "Ooh, make me one too." And she responded, "You can make your own sandwich." Totally reasonable, playful response, something that we'll playfully talk to each other like that all the time. But in this very moment, I got so angry and so upset to the point where I didn't even really understand why I was that angry. I could recognize that it was unreasonable for me to be this upset, but I just couldn't put my thumb on it. Why? Why is it when she said that it made me this hurt? The reaction didn't really connect. It didn't make sense to the action that was happening. And after taking a moment to try to process it and recognize things, luckily I did not verbally react right away. Just kind of held it in, pressed it down, shaking together over well. But it was this moment where, after time thinking about it, recognizing that what I'm feeling isn't necessarily accurate, what's deeper connected. And I realized that it was triggering something all the way back to my childhood and making me go to these places where, as a kid, experiencing lack and not having nurturing home all the time. All these moments where it's like these core memories as a child that all of a sudden got breathed out right there, that got triggered and hit with that, to where it made me feel like you're like, whoa, like all the way back to childhood, like making me feel you're not worth taking care of. It's like this core belief as a child that I have to overcome, right? And so all this over, like, you can make your own sandwich. You get how very vast our experiences can trigger us. And so recognizing in that moment, in our own moments, we need to see how to recognize that those emotional overloads, and look for the signs. What does it look like when an emotional overload is taking over a conversation? And it's similar to what I just described. All of a sudden your heart starts racing. Maybe you're feeling anxious. You're feeling like almost like a really fast-paced, increased tone in this a certain emotion. Maybe you start recognizing your voice raising. Maybe you're interrupting, or you're tuning out. You're disassociating. You feel the urge to defend. You feel the urge to withdraw. Maybe you feel the urge to attack. You're thinking more about winning than you do about understanding. It's in these kinds of moments that your brain is shifting from connection mode to protection mode. And when that happens, you're no longer listening, you're reacting. And the good news is you can retain yourself. You could retrain yourself to recognize that moment as a reset rather than a moment to attack or a moment to react. And the goal is never the goal isn't to never feel emotions in the first place. That's impossible and that's ridiculous. We are emotional beings. We're supposed to feel. The goal is to feel your emotions without letting them lead you into harm or leading you to harm. You can be honest about what you feel without being destructive in how you express it. Y'all feel what I'm saying? And so let's look at a very powerful thing, and that is the power of a pause. It's one of the most powerful tools you have in your marriage, is this ability to pause and reflect. If you feel yourself getting worked up, pause and breathe. You know, even that like classic technique, count to 10 and breathe, that is literally this moment where you are allowing your brain network to calm down. You are rewiring yourself to not continue down to this fight or flight mode, and you're resetting your brain to know it's a safe place. If your tone is changing, pause. If your spouse is shutting down, pause. You know, you don't have to solve these issues in that single moment. And you don't have to get to the bottom of it right then. But sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is say, hey, can we take a moment and come back to this in a few minutes? I'm feeling this way and I don't even really know why. And that one decision can save an entire conversation that's spiraling out of control. And when you return, you can do it with intention. You can check in, you name what you're feeling. Maybe you're saying something like, I realized I was feeling really unheard, and that came out as frustration. I'm sorry for saying that. Or maybe you're even just like inviting more clarity. And saying, I want to work through this. I don't want to fight with you. I realize that I'm actually, this triggered something deep, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to make me that emotional. Or maybe you're even recognizing I'm just really tired. I didn't get any sleep last night. The kids were up all night. And I realize that I'm getting frustrated at you when it has, at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with you. This is just a normal thing that feels like a big thing because I'm tired. You know, that kind of shift changes the entire dynamic, and it helps remind you that you're not opponents, you're a team. So now with this idea of going into a team mindset, let's talk about how it's foundational, because in marriage, especially in these moments of conflict, it's easy to forget that you're on the same side. It's easy to forget that you're literally on the same team. And when our emotions get big, you start seeing your spouse as the problem. But 9 times out of 10, your spouse isn't the problem. The problem is the problem. And when you remember that you're on the same team, you can approach this conversation differently. You're not trying to win, you're trying to understand. You're not fighting against each other, you're fighting for each other. And that perspective really does change things. And it gives you space to hold both truth and tenderness. Even if you don't agree in the moment, you're choosing to protect the relationship above all else. So again, pause. We're a team. My spouse isn't the problem. The problem is the problem. And now let's talk about how to stay grounded in emotionally charged moments. These are a couple steps to ground ourselves in emotionally intense conversations. You could use I statements, like instead of "you made me feel," you can say "I feel overwhelmed." It removes blame and it invites empathy. You can check in physically. Your body often knows that you're stressed before your brain does. And are you clenching your fists? Is your chest tight? Take a breath, drop your shoulders, regulate your body to help regulate your emotions. There's even a lot of really practical methods. Like maybe you need to step away and do what's called a cold dive, to where you just splash your face with cold water, and it really does like reset your brain chemistry to where it helps remind you that you are safe. It really regulates yourself. So there's a lot of physical, practical things you can do to reset and ground your emotions. Reassure each other mid conversations. Just saying, "I love you, I'm not against you, I want to work this out," can calm the atmosphere. Invite that peace back into the atmosphere. Know when to take a break. Breaks don't mean that you're giving up, but they mean that you're protecting the relationship from potential damage. But make sure that you're always returning to finish the conversation. Just say, "Can we take 10 minutes so I can breathe?" And take that moment, like literally take that moment to calmly breathe, take deep breaths, count to 10, whatever you need to do. Go splash your face with water. But if you really need to take a break instead of breaking each other's faces, And finally, practice emotional honesty. This is the biggest one, and it's being honest about how you feel. Even when it's messy, it is how you build a relationship of trust, and knowing that vulnerability fosters connection. And I want to be really clear on this, that practicing emotional honesty takes time to get good at. I feel like the first 3 years of me intentionally trying to be emotionally honest was not great. I was not used to expressing my emotions, and I would often get frustrated or even angry, not at my wife, but because I felt like I wasn't saying it right. I felt like it was coming out the wrong way. And at the end of the day, you're just now learning how to talk about your feelings. So a lot of us are. And so give yourself the grace to know that you might not articulate it just right the first time, but that doesn't mean you should give up. So all that to say, let's leave with this. Emotions are not the enemy. What hurts relationships isn't emotions, it's emotional disconnection. And when you can slow down, name what you feel, remember that you're on the same team, you can turn those conflicts into connection. And the challenge for you this week is, the next time that your emotions are rising in a conversation, pause, take a deep breath, go splash your face with some water, remind your spouse, remind yourself, we're on the same team. And I hope that what we talked about was meaningful and helpful for you today. It's all in my book, Forever and Ever. If you haven't already got your copy, you can order it on my website or directly from Amazon. But until next time, have a great life.